Hi, this is David at MASH OT, and tonight we're going to be reviewing the M17 R4. This is the latest model that's been released in 2021 with the new RTX 3070 graphics card. Now this model looks identical to the M17 R3 and the M17 R2. We will be doing a complete review on this, but if you have seen the reviews or if you have had a previous generation model of this Alienware M17, then there will be timestamps down below so you can shoot to the sections that you are interested in and skip any of the bits that you already know about. So this new M17X R4 comes with the latest 3000 series NVIDIA graphics card. Now we've got the model in with the 3070, but there will also be a 3060 and there's also a 38 version available. We probably will get some of those in the future, but we went for the middle model to start with because we feel this offers the best performance per dollar. Now with the 3000 series, this also has an Intel processor. It comes with an 8-core 16-thread CPU. Previous version used to have a 6-core in the base model. I believe this starts, well, it is in the UK, it starts with an 8-core CPU. Now, we've not reviewed these 8 cores, so it'll be quite interesting to see how this performs. We'll have a look at that later. The model comes with either 16 gigabytes or 32 gigabytes of RAM. Now, bear in mind it is soldered on, so make sure you choose the amount of RAM that you need when you buy this laptop. I've got 16 gigabytes in this model. We also have the 15-inch model on the way from Dell, which has a 32 gigabytes of RAM, so we will be reviewing that one shortly as well, see how that performs. Now the model we ordered comes with 512 gigabytes of SSD, but the laptop itself has two 80mm slots and a 42mm slot, so you've got plenty of room to add extra storage in the future should you wish. Now the other big upgrade we've got in this model this year is we've got the 360Hz screen. It's 1080p, but this is the fastest panel you can currently get on a laptop, so I'm looking forward to testing that out later on and seeing how it performs. Unfortunately, they haven't offered the 1440p model yet, and we will be getting that model in when it is available. Now obviously, we've got the Lunar Light version of this laptop. There's also the Dark Side of the Moon, which is an incredibly dark grey model. In the UK, it's easier to get the Lunar Light, which is why we normally get the Lunar Light, and I really do like the colour. It sort of sets itself apart from the majority of black laptops out there. Right, so let's take a look at this laptop. Now this is a 17-inch, as you can see, written on the top of the laptop. It's pretty light for a 17-inch laptop. It's quite compact. It feels very solid. And it's a really good looking, this is the Alienware Epic design. I really like this. Now, as you can see, it's slightly longer than a normal 17-inch laptop because we've got the vents jutting out the back. But this does give it much better performance than laptops like a razor blade where you're trying to vent the heat up through the lid. And if we quickly take a look at the ports, on the left-hand side, we've got a Kensington lock, a vent, an RJ45, it's the sort of foldable type because obviously it's a slim laptop. We've got a USB 3 port and a headset jack. And if I spin it round, on the right-hand side, we've got a micro SD card. I do think it's a shame they didn't put full size, but that's better than nothing. We've got another 2 USB 3 ports, followed by another vent. And when we look at the back, we've got the Alienware lighting ring, which you can set to any color you like. Obviously the nice big vents pumping the hot air straight out the back. We've got a HDMI 2 port, a mini display port, a Thunderbolt port with power delivery for charging. I've done a video where we've tested this charging as well. I will link that down below in case you want to watch it, but you can use USB-C power supplies and power banks if you want them at the right wattage. We've got an Alienware amplifier port. Now I believe they've discontinued the Alienware amplifier at the moment, which is a real shame, but that's a great way of adding extra graphic performance to this laptop because it gives you greater bandwidth than Thunderbolt does. So you can still pick those up on eBay and other places. Finally, we've got the power supply port. Now, if we just have a very quick look at the top, you can see you've got the little alien head logo. Now, this does light up when you open up. You can change the colors and you can choose independently for each of the zones what colors you'd like. Another thing that I believe that's new for Alienware this year is that when we open the laptop, it will automatically power on now. So let's have a quick look. Not quite one finger opening, if that bothers you. There's quite a stiff hinge, but obviously it's a big 17-inch laptop. Now you can see I've opened it up. It was powered off. It's now powering itself on. Now straight away you can see the keyboard has lit up. It's a per key backlit keyboard, which is very nice. And this is one of the best laptop keyboards on the market in my opinion. It's got amazing travel, nice sort of feel, and a great layout. It's a really lovely keyboard. Now I personally prefer on a laptop a keyboard without a number pad, but I know a lot of people that do like the number pad on the 7-inch version. So if you do prefer just a keyboard without the number pad, the 15-inch will suit you because that is just this part of the keyboard here centered into the middle of the laptop. But if you find number pads useful, it is a great layout still. The trackpad, it's a glass trackpad. It's very accurate. Your finger glides nicely on it, and it's Microsoft Precision, and it works with all the gestures as you'd expect. Now also the deck itself, as you can see, this is the lunar light colour because we've got the lunar light. This year and last year they've added this high endurance coating. Now when they first released this lunar light colour, it did sort of stain a little bit after a while. But what we've noticed with this high endurance coating, we haven't had any discolouring with our use over the last year. So that's a good improvement with this laptop model. Now as we move to the top of the deck, this here is to allow air into the actual laptop. It's not a speaker grill, so you don't want to necessarily shut the laptop lid and be using this full pelt. Try and keep it open because that does obviously an extra way of getting air into the laptop as well as the vents underneath. And then over on the right you've got the Alien Head power button. This is a nice feature with the Alienwares, this actual power button, because not only can you change the colour of the Alien Head, when you unplug it, as you can see at the moment, I'm running orange. That's telling me that I'm on battery, and it will also flash a different colour when my battery's running out. I really like that because it's so easy to accidentally forget to turn your charger on, or if you accidentally pop your lead out the back, you'll instantly see whether you're running on mains or on battery. That's a really nice feature from Alienware. So now we're going to do our usual YouTube royalty-free music test, our usual track, so that you can see how the speakers sound on this laptop. Now I'm running at 50%, so let's give it a go. Pop this up now a little bit, so 66%. You see the speakers, they're loud, as I'm having to actually raise my voice. See, the speakers are very loud, very clear, and they do sound really nice for a gaming laptop. The same with obviously using the last year's version. Really pleased with the speakers on this. It's one of the few gaming laptops that I can actually listen to a bit of music whilst I'm working, so well done Dell for that one. I've also tested out the headset jack. When you plug in a headset or a pair of headphones, it will pop you up a prompt asking you what you've plugged in, so it's got the auto detection. I've tested the headphones and a headset out, and it sounds great. There's no hiss, and really good clean audio coming out of that headset port. Now let's move on up to the screen. We've bought the 360Hz model this year. Obviously it's the fastest laptop screen on the market. It is only 1080p on a 17-inch screen. I know some people will be looking to get the 1440p that's been released. As much as I love the higher resolution of 1440p, personally I prefer a 1080p screen for gaming, especially on a 17-inch laptop. The reason being is I prefer high frames per second more than I do visual quality. So I would much rather be pumping out 200 plus frames if I can than I would be playing at 1440p. Now, being that this is the 360Hz screen with a 3070, one thing we do get this year is we get G-Sync with that, but we do not get Optimus. I have tested, if you press function F7, there's no option to switch to the integrated graphics. Only the 3070 shows up in Device Manager. So the plus side to this is when you're using the laptop for gaming, you get fantastic performance because you don't get any issues with Optimus sort of dropping your frames like you can do on certain games, especially for CSGO and other high CPU bandwidth titles. But the downside is, the battery life I know now, without even testing yet, it's not going to be great. So I've been using this screen for a little while now. Really impressed with it so far. It's about a £150 upgrade at Dell UK. But in my opinion, I've been really enjoying it and I think it's definitely worth it. Obviously, if gaming is your primary focus. It feels very snappy, very responsive. It's about 350 nits of brightness, so pretty bright for one of these high response panels, and the colours are great. Really enjoying it. Now, if you want to see some gameplay footage on this laptop, we will be dropping a video in the next day or two with a lot of our popular games that we enjoy playing. So please subscribe and hit notifications if you'd like to see that video. Now we're going to just briefly look at the performance of this laptop. We'll be running the default balance profile that you'll get out of the box with this machine, but we will be doing a more in-depth video on the performance of this laptop, and we'll be probably dropping that one tomorrow. So firstly, we ran Cinebench R20. Now this is an Intel Core i7 10870H CPU, which is an 8-core 16-thread CPU. Boosts all the way up to 5 GHz. Now we've got a CPU score of 3,845 points, which is a very respectable score on this Cinebench run. Now I ran this multiple times and it did not throttle. So the good news is with this vapor chamber that we've got in this Alienware machine, It's got really good heat management and thermal performance in my testing so far. We will be looking at that in further detail in that upcoming video. Now, I know the Ryzens will probably outperform this, and especially on a performance per watt basis, but for the gaming purposes of this laptop, I don't think anyone's going to be complaining at this sort of score. We then completed a run of Geekbench 5 on the CPU, and we got a single core score of 1,212 and a multi-core score of 6,836. So again, pretty solid scores and a nice increase over our 6-core processor from last year. So we then ran the OpenCL test, which tested the GPU, which is the 3070 in this case, and we got a score of 121,598, which is a really impressive score and a good, I'd say 20 to 25% better than the 2070 Super it's kind of replaced from last year. So continuing with the GPU, we then completed a time spy run, and we got a really nice score of 10,285 with a graphics score of 10,648 and a CPU score of 8,623. Now, when I ran through this test, I noticed the GPU was like sitting at about 140 watts. So the good thing with Dell putting this vapor chamber on this model, they've allowed it to really sort of let the horses run free on this one. 140 watts is at the upper end of a 3070 laptop card. I know a lot of them are literally down to 80, 90 watts on these 3070s. And you'll see a big difference in performance from obviously an 80 watt 3070, and in this case 140 watt 3070. So obviously you're paying a lot from Dell for one of these M17s, but you can see obviously that they are putting the effort in to give you the full performance out of this graphics card. And the last 3D benchmark, we completed a run of Firestrike, which gave us a score of 21,871. The graphics score was a fantastic 27,273, which in comparison to last year's 2070 Super was about 22,000 on the graphics score. So a lovely boost this year. The physics score was 20,889, which gave us a combined score of 9,057. So a really nice score for a slim and light 17-inch laptop here. So just on the basic benchmarks, you can see obviously it's a pretty nippy machine, and they've obviously allowed good thermal wattage on the CPU and the GPU to give us these numbers. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, we're going to do a deep dive on the performance on this laptop. That will be coming tomorrow. Please make sure you hit the notifications and subscribe, and you will see that video pop up in your feed. Okay, so we played a couple of rounds of Apex. You can see the temperatures are up into the 70s and early 80s for the CPU, but we're running at a pretty good sort of frame rate. You'll hear the fan noise. It is pretty loud, so I'm going to just put my decibel meter on. Now this is on the balanced profile, and you can see there on my decibel meter it's reading 49 decibels, and it's quite consistently at 49 decibels. Now the frames per second is about 145 on Apex on all high settings and insane textures, so nowhere near the 360 frames of this actual panel, but it feels incredibly smooth, and it's a really lovely gaming experience. I think for esports titles like CSGO, you're going to get a much better experience if you're running near that 300 frames per second. Now the keyboard itself, it does get warm, especially over the sort of centre to right part of the keyboard, but it's not uncomfortable. I can quite happily keep my fingers on here without scorching them like other laptops I've used in the past. Now, one lovely thing with Alienware laptops is there's very little bloatware that comes with the laptop. You pretty much get a straight Windows 10 install. The one piece of software that you do get is Alienware Command Center. You get the Dell driver update and a couple of other bits and pieces which I normally do remove. Now the Alienware Command Center has stayed the same for a few years now, and I have to be honest, I think this is the one area that I think Dell really needs to look at improving. I find it's quite a clunky piece of software, not the most intuitive, and really needs a bit of development. I used to love their old Command Center. This new version is average at best. Now from within the Command Center you can change the thermal profile, you can create macros, you can attach profiles to games. Now you can change the colour of the keyboard, which is perky LED as I mentioned earlier, the alien head, the rear lit ring and the rear alien head can all be changed within this Command Center. Plus there are a number of lighting effects you can use rather than just static. You can have wave effects, rainbows, etc. So there's some number of options in there which are quite nice. But that's the only thing, Dell, if you are listening, please spend a bit of time, try and develop this software, make it a little bit less clunky. So then moving on to the battery life. As suspected, it's not great. Now, we did our usual streaming test where we have the screen at 50% brightness, the keyboard backlight was on, and we streamed YouTube music over wireless and got a grand total of 2 hours and 12 minutes on battery. So really not great, and that is due purely to the fact that we've got no Optimus on here. It's running the dedicated 3070 the whole time. So obviously, if battery life is something you're looking for, I would definitely recommend getting the 144Hz model, because on that model you can either enable or disable Optimus. With this 360Hz model, you have to have dedicated GPU only. Dell say the reason for that is that they need to have it directly connected and they can't put a mux switch in apparently. I don't know how true that is, but there we go. So poor battery life on this model, but if you're using it as a dedicated game laptop like I would be, battery life doesn't concern me. I'm nearly always plugged in. Now, talking of plugged in, this model I received came with a 240 watt power supply. It's the usual Dell 240 watt brick. It's quite large, but it's not massively heavy, not compared to the 330 watt anyway, but it's quite flat, so it slips into your bag nicely. So I quite enjoy this power supply. Dell have been using the same one for years, and you know, having travelled with laptops all the time, this slides into the bag very well and provides 240 watts of power to your laptop. Well, that leads me on to the conclusion. Now, this is a very, very expensive laptop. £2,500, as we mentioned earlier on, for the 8-core 3070, 16GB RAM, 360Hz screen, and the 512 SSD. It's a lot of money. It really is a lot of money, and I think you've got to really want one of these new 3000 series graphics cards to spend this much money. Now, with Dell, there are often discount codes, and I would definitely recommend, if you were going to buy one of these, keep a lookout for a discount code, because it's not worth £2,500 in my opinion. Now, price aside, if you can get it for a good price, depending on the country that you're in and the discount codes you have available, this is an incredible laptop. Now, obviously everybody's talking about Ryzen at the moment and about how good Ryzen are, and I don't dispute that. We've had some Ryzen processors in, and they are really, really good. For some reason, Dell have decided not to go with Ryzen. They've stuck with Intel. Now, if I'd bought the 6-core, I might be a bit disappointed, because you see the 6-core CPU scores, it's not brilliant. But with this one, the 8-core in here and not throttling is giving you really good performance. And in everyday performance in games, which you're likely to be using this laptop for, or maybe video encoding, you're getting really good performance. The 3070 at 140 watts is performing really well, outperforming all our previous Alienware, even the Area 51M we had in with the 2070 Super. It's just absolutely beaten all of them. And aside from the performance, you're getting a really solid laptop. The build quality is very nice. I love the design. I really love this Alienware Epic look that they've gone for the last couple of years. I particularly like the Lunar Light because it's something a little bit different. You've got a fantastic 360Hz screens. I've really enjoyed using this in my time. The speakers are brilliant. The keyboard on this laptop is amazing. I really enjoy typing on this keyboard, and I could actually use this for a day-to-day productivity machine if the battery life was a little bit better. So then if we want to look at the negatives, obviously, firstly the price. We know that it's very expensive. Second thing is obviously battery life. If you are buying a dedicated game laptop like this with this 360Hz screen, you're going to have to accept the battery life is terrible. Also, these Alienwares, they are slim and light, but due to that fact, they do get quite loud. The fans in this are particularly loud, I find. Now, the good thing is you have Alienware Command Center. You can adjust the speed of the fan depending on the profile that you're on. That is something we are going to look at in more detail in the next video. But if you leave it on the default settings and you're like using it quite heavily in gaming, you are certainly going to want a pair of decent gaming headphones. So would I recommend this laptop? Well, if you're looking for a dedicated gaming laptop, absolutely. I think this is an amazing all-around laptop. It's got so much power, and when you're gaming on it, it's just so fluid. You feel so connected to the screen, the 360Hz screen. I've really enjoyed my time gaming with it. At $2,500, I couldn't justify it for myself, but if I had someone give it to me, I would be very pleased. Also, with this machine, it's such a good all-round package, other than the battery life, that you don't need to just use it for gaming. It's got an amazing keyboard for typing, great speakers, the screen quality is great. It would make an amazing machine just for doing a bit of video editing on the go, some Unity or game development, whatever you're into, Blender, 3D rendering. This will handle all of that with ease. It's so powerful. Now, we are going to obviously be doing a few more videos on this machine. There will be a gameplay video coming up shortly, and also an in-depth performance coming up shortly. If you've got any other questions, please pop them down in the comments below and I will get back to you. Also, if you would like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We have lots more content coming shortly, not only on this laptop, but we've got the 15-inch brother coming in soon and plenty of other laptops on the way. Lastly, thank you for watching.